All right, Shalom. I want to begin by giving all glory and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rechakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect, and shalom to all the Akim, pushing his truth with sincerity. It's your brother Itazwan from the GMS Columbus branch, coming back again for another video through the Spirit. Lord's will it be edifying. And pretty much just going to add to the pot, concerning, Japheth, okay? And how ultimately the first European settlers, were in fact dark-skinned people. And was just doing some research concerning pelasgians, Minoans, and etruscans. I spelled that all the way wrong, Salakia, which they know what I'm talking about. That's why we got AI, autocorrect, etc. And pretty much just doing some reading in on them, linking, the three different groups, all right, which ultimately we believe through the Spirit, ultimately, okay, and research here in GMS that these ultimately were descendants of Japheth. Let's bring in the scripture real quick. Just clear these tabs up, get them all fresh real fast. All right. Let's go BLB. Genesis 10. See Genesis 10 at the top. I'm going to read NLT, see what it says. It says, "This is the account of the families of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The three sons of Noah, many children were born to them after the great flood. The descendants of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. The descendants of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarma. The descendants of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Radinum, or as it says, Dodanum. Their descendants became the seafaring peoples that spread out to various lands, each identified by their own language, clan, and nationality, or Salakia, national identity. Right, seafaring people. All right. But like it says in a KJV, it says, "By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands." Real quick, let's get the word isles. All right, what's like it? And like I said, it's just something quick off the dome. The isles, coast, island, shore, region. Okay, so these were pretty much island dwellers, which ultimately is beautiful going into this subject concerning Japheth and how you can link it to the Hawaiians today, because they're on an island, a mass island. Okay, so these pretty much these people, these Japhetic people, were island dwellers. All right, and dwelt amongst the shore, so to speak, on the coast. All right, you see. So first and foremost, when you dive into certain topics concerning the scriptures, and concerning secular history, etc., you have to link these things. It's a puzzle. All right. And like our apostles and elders, always go into is being like the Church of Berea, searching these things out for yourself and linking them for yourself, not just regurgitating. All right. What you hear, via videos, etc. All right. Actually going into these things and linking it, for yourself. And maybe, you come up, through the Spirit and, find more revelations to add upon, what you have learned, via the apostles and elders. Okay, so this is beautiful. One more time, verse 5, KJV says, "By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, every one after his tongue, after their families and their nations." But real quick, let me see if seafaring comes up in the BLB. Goes on. Nope. See if I can key in on this. Seafaring. Let me just pull it all the way up. Will it come up? Seafaring, of a person traveling by sea, especially regularly. The practice of traveling by sea, especially regularly, right? So, people who dwell, amongst the sea, travel by sea, seafaring people, navy, all right? So they, like I said, they were on those islands, on those coastlines, so I can assume through the spirit they were good with boats, all right? And marine life. You see, that's how they lived, all right? And like I said, going into it through the spirit, we can see how that ultimately links with the modern day Hawaiians, all right? Or the modern day Japhites, you see? So it's beautiful, man. When you go into the tribes and go into the different nations, you go ultimately into their spiritual characteristics, and how they operate, you know. Marine time, let's look at that word. Connected with the sea, especially in relation to seafaring, commercial, or military activity. Nautical. It says of or concerning sailors or navigation, marine time. Seafaring means working as a sailor or traveling regular on the sea. The Lebanese were seafaring people, synonyms, nautical, marine, naval, marine time, more synonyms of seafaring, right? All right, which ultimately, I believe it may go into that. But, through the spirit, I just typed in Pelasgians, Minoans, Etruscans, okay? And see what the AI overview says concerning these three people, all right, which ultimately are descendants of Japhet. You see, real quick at the top, AI overview, it says the Pelasgians, Minoans, and Etruscans were ancient groups associated with the Mediterranean regions. Let's look up these regions real quick. Mediterranean regions, right? Look up. See? And then when you go into it, ultimately, you look at this map, Rome ultimately conquered all of this, all right? When you go into it, when you look at the map of Rome, all right, and what they conquered, parts of Asia Minor, Turkey, modern day Turkey, etc. And you see they were Mediterranean, they were on the Mediterranean, all right, that sea there. And then you go, I believe, further east over in this area, right up in here, you got the Aegean Sea. Or, some brothers pronounce it different. I say Aegean, or, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but all right, then, you go into it. Ultimately, you had the Etruscans who dwelled here. Then the Minoans dwelled on the island of Crete. All right. So on and so forth. All right. Always good to look up maps as well, diving into these topics. But real quick, it says the Mediterranean basin. It says known as the Mediterranean region, or sometimes Mediterranea, is the region of lands around the Mediterranean Sea that have mostly a Mediterranean climate with mild to cold rainy winters and warm to hot dry summers, which support characteristics Mediterranean forests, woodlands, and scrub vegetation. All right, so just getting the idea, all right, of where this region was, and like I said, how it ultimately links up with what we're going into concerning Japheth and his lot, or his inheritance, so to speak, of him. Like it says, KJV, Genesis 10:5, it says, by these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families and their nations. Right. Let's go back to this AI overview. It says the Minoans are known for their advanced civilization on Crete. Let's look up Crete and where its dwelling is. A Greek island, see, in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. Population 630,000 people, or capital Heraklion. It is noted for the remains of the Minoan civilization that flourished here in the second millennium BC. Crete played an important role in the Greek struggle for independence from the Turks in the late 19th and early 20th century that resulted in it becoming administratively part of an independent Greece in 1913. Greek name Crete, just pronounce it that way, or Crete. All right, let me see. Pull up Crete so we get an idea where that is. All right, Crete. Get a map. If it comes up, it's an island in the Mediterranean. Can we get a good map of it? I'm trying to get a bigger map. Let me see. Okay, right, Crete. You see? Like I said, you got Aegean Sea. So they, pretty much inhabited, this region. They were in this region. All right. Like I said, they spread in various lands. Okay. So they were, scattered, in the midst of, these islands or these isles. And like I said, you go into the Mediterranean, you see it's all types of islands. Come on, man. It's all beautiful, man. Like I said, when you go into it and get the understanding for yourself and you see, how all these things ultimately link up through the spirit, which is, helps us, get the understanding concerning these matters, certain history, etc., and the understanding of these tribes and nations in the scriptures. Going back, it says the Minoans are known for their advanced civilization on Crete, while the Etruscans, who were thought to have migrated from pelasgians, settled in Italy. Right, so they were pretty much, off of the coast somewhat in central Italy, etc. The connection between these groups is complex and debated, with some scholars suggesting that the pelasgians may have been ancestral group to the Minoans and Etruscans, while others propose they were distinct populations with overlapping territories. Pelasgians. It says ancient Greek writers used the term pelasgians to describe populations that existed in Greece before the arrival of the Hellenists, right? Because, going into it. And see, that's why we understand through the spirit, these ancient lands concerning the Medes, etc., which ultimately tie back to Japhet, concerning them, it's ultimately talking about Esau, Edom, all right? Because what? You're dealing with the Hellen or the Hellenistic period. You had Esau, all right, who pretty much displaced, the Japhetic people, the Etruscans, the Pelasgians, as they write in their records, okay, displaced them. You see from that land. Let me see. Hellene, this is an ancient Greek, a native of modern Greece, chiefly in the title of the now exiled royal family from the Greek Helen. Let's see what else we get. Let's see. Hellenes is derived from the mythological figure Helen, who was believed to be the ancestor of the Greek peoples. The term Greeks, which is used in English, comes from the Latin Gracie. Where we at? Go to etymologies. The name Hellenis is linked to Helen, a figure in Greek mythology. Okay, so that's just pretty much the etymology of the word Helen. Okay, it's good to know. Hellenization. All right, so I'm guessing through the spirit, when they Hellenized the people, they were coming in this deity or this mythological figure of some sort. Had to tap into that some more. Hellenization. After Alexander the Great's conquest, the term Hellenist was also used more broadly to refer to individuals and cultures influenced by Greek culture, even those who weren't necessarily ethnic Greeks, right? And see, we go into the whole Gentile matter. They Hellenized, all right. Those who they conquered. See. And like it reads, the Pelasgians were one of those people that they Hellenized and displaced, ultimately conquering that region. And like we went into real quick, man, which page did I have it on? I have it on this one. How? Hold on, let me see. How pretty much the Pelasgians, the Minoans, so to speak, etc. They dwelt in this region. And real quick, let's go get a map of Rome, the Roman Empire. See? How Rome ultimately took over all of that. We know Rome ultimately sprang out of Greek, because at first it was the Greco-Roman Empire. See? Hey, they took over all of that. Damn, why is this map so ugly? See? If you can see, how they ultimately took over all that, Go to Mediterranean there. Why is it giving me all these? I want a modern. Let me see. I don't like these maps. Which I guess this is how it looks. Ancient maps, so to speak. But here goes a good one. See, the Mediterranean Sea. And this was pretty much where Rome, all right, stretched forth. And, they had other provinces going down into Israel, etc., But this was pretty much where it was. And then, like you said, you go Greece. So where Greece would have been, or Macedonia, which is good info. See? So Esau took over all of this, man, displaced them, and then ended up conquering, modern Europe today. And that's why, modern Europe, has majority the Edomites, pale-skinned people, so to speak, all right? Where we at? Let's keep getting some info on this, see what we get. It says they are often associated with areas like Dodonia. Ooh, let me see this. I'm doing research myself, concerning this topic. Just seeing what we get, seeing what we can link in the spirit. Dudona. Okay. All right, cool. Let's see something one more time. Okay. Let's keep going. It says they are often associated with areas like Dudona, Thrace, Argos, and the Peloponnese. Scholars debate the precise nature of the Peloponnese language and the relationship to Greek. Some theories suggest a link between the Pelasgians and the Tyrrhenian or Etruscans, who migrated from Greece to Italy. The Minoan civilization flourished on the island of Crete during the Bronze Age and developed a sophisticated culture with complex urban settlements. Genetic studies suggest their origins may be tied to the population that migrated to Crete from Neolithic Anatolia and Europe. The Minoan civilization was eventually influenced and absorbed by the Mycenaean Greeks. Let's look up this Mycenaean civilization was a Bronze Age civilization that dominated mainland Greece and Aegean Sea from roughly 1600 to 1200 BC. They were known for their advanced engineering, particularly in construction and drainage, as well as their role in the Trojan War. The Mycenaeans spoke the first form of Greek, and their society was characterized by wealthy rulers and thriving trade networks. Mycenaean and skilled engineers. Let me see history. I want to dive into this a little bit. So interesting. Okay, cool. But so just tying things that we receive. All right, in our research to things in the spirit, connecting these accounts, lands. All right, and prophetic, scriptures concerning these nations and how they link up today. Like I said, ultimately, dealing with it, because people say that, the so-called white man is Japheth, and that's BS, because what? The first Japhetic people are, the Japhetic people were what known as dark-skinned people. All right, and concerning prophecy, Japheth, doesn't serve any true purpose in the end time prophecies, but, slavery, as all the other nations as well. But concerning end time prophecies, etc., we understand that Esau will be the last ruler prior to Yahushua coming. Let's get it. 2nd Edge 6, I'm going to start at verses 8. And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. The hand of man is betwixt the heel and the hand. Other questions Esdras asked, I'll not write. So, like I said, Esau ultimately, all right, is the nation prophesied, all right, to rule at the end. And then when you go into it further, you go into the beast, the four beasts. Real quick, Daniel 7. And let's start at 7. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth, right, going into the Roman Empire, which were ultimately ran by Edomites as well. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns, right? All right. It was diverse, going into its system, its political system, so to speak. The plebeians and the patricians, it had a senate house, so on and so forth. It, pretty much, got out of the whole king, the king system, so to speak. All right, for lack of better words right now. Verses 8, I considered the horns, and behold, 3 came up. Among them, another little horn, right? What is that little horn ultimately? Babylon, the great America, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the horns, and behold, in his horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. It says, verse 9, you see, going all the way down the stretch, all right, concerning, from the ancient Roman Empire, all right, from the ancient Roman Empire, all right, down to, ultimately America, how these kingdoms, these horns, etc., these powers, all right, like I said, translated from the Roman Empire on down, you see, to what we have now, that revival of the Roman Empire ultimately. You see how it ultimately would connect, to end time prophecies, all right, and prior to Yahushua coming, on the scene. You see, verses 9, it says, I beheld till the thrones, slacking to grab something. It says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire, right? That's going into the Heavenly Father. You see? It's going into the Heavenly Father. All right. Verses 10, a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000s times 10,000 stood before him. And judgment was set, and the books were open. Right. So this is concerning the end. All right. The judgment being set. You see how you go up from verses 7 on down and pretty much give you a timeline concerning the, like I said, even when you go up, the major kingdoms that will rule in the earth, which ultimately track the captivities, all right, of the Israelites, all right, and how ultimately, like I said, it's giving you a prophetic timeline, concerning, the last major kingdom or empire, that will be ruling, prior to Yahweh Shai, prior to the judgment, being set, all right, you see. But real quick, I just wanted to go up, just to tap into, for edification, tap into the horns, all right, or primarily, really, like I said, verses. I'm gonna just start at 8 again. It says, "I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up." All right. And when you go into that, pretty much, all right, you had the little horn being America, which ultimately, stems out of what? Britain. And the horns that were plucked up were the French, Spanish, and the British. All right. When you go into that, go into those wars, etc. So I just want to make mention of that real quick. But going down to verse 11, it says, "I behold, then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld, even till the beast was slain." See? All right, so this beast system that ultimately stems from Rome, which, like I said, today, is ultimately America. All right, will be slain. It says, "I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame." Right, which is those thermonuclear missiles. As concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. Right, ultimately to serve out their judgment. All right, you see, serve out their slavery. All right, etc., etc. Their life's going to be prolonged. See, verses 13, "I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him." You see, so after this beast, all right, is taken down, you see, after this last rulership, all right, spearheaded by the Edomites, okay, is taken down, what's going to happen? The dominion of another ruler is going to come. All right, the dominion of Jacob, all right, ultimately being Yahweh Shai's kingdom, all right, or Yahweh Shai's dominion, all right, will be brought to the planet. You see, to serve him, his dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. Real quick, going back to 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, how Jacob's, all right, is the beginning. Real quick again, 2nd Ezra 6:9, "For Esau is the end of the world," see, end of this age, "and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." Right, and we understand that ultimately, that when Yahweh Shai's kingdom is set up, it will be an everlasting kingdom. All right, because what? Yahweh Shai is going to put everything in order. So Esau, Edom ultimately ties into end time prophecy. You see, and that's how we know, going into chapters like Ezekiel 38th chapter, dealing with Gog and Magog, etc., that ultimately ties into end time prophecy. Those have to be Edomites, see, who are ultimately ruling in those lands that they conquered, via displacing the Japhites. Okay, plain. So I'm gonna call it that through the spirit. Just wanted to bring something else. Like I said, it was pretty much off the dome. Lord willing, Jake caught the drift of it, the gist of it, and got some type of edification out of it. Like I said, I just went off the top. And linked all these things through the spirit, you know. But Lord's will, this was edifying. Gonna give all glory and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash, Shalom.